What a game that was. Welcome to Wrap Up Live. This is your official Raptors Republic post-game live show. And your Raptors are coming off of a 115 to 112 win. A game versus the Boston Celtics, which Raptors fans obviously love. I mean, wins against Boston are like, they're undefeated, really, right? So, and Boston apparently, I didn't know this until earlier today, they're apparently first in the East. So their meteoric rise. Looks like we already lost Adon.
I was going to say, where did he go? He couldn't stand that Boston was number one in the East, and he's
like Boston number one in the East. I'm out.
My underwear was in the camera. I had to get it out of there.
So, yeah, I didn't know that until today. It's crazy. They were 11th in the East at one point. They are now first. I don't know if they're still first after this win or after this loss for them. But this is huge for the Raptors. 4 starters were out for Boston. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Who else am I forgetting?
Robert Williams.
Robert
Williams. And Robert Williams is out long term.
Al Horford. Yeah. So this was huge. The Raptors were down for a good portion of this game. Fourth quarter, a little bit of a comeback. Fred finally comes alive and realizes that a basketball game is being played, hits a couple of clutch threes. Pascal Siakam, absolutely unguardable, proves once again that he is on track for an all-NBA qualification, which is going to be great news for Raptors fans because 40 points and 13 rebounds is not easy to do versus the Boston Celtics, even when they're down 4 starters. So, yeah, he was unguardable. Raptors played a great game. There were times where it was difficult to watch in terms of, I don't want to harp on referees too much because I feel like I was doing that during the game enough on Twitter. So, but Adon, Kyle, I've talked enough. What did you guys, I'll ask Adon first. Adon, what did you think about that win? It felt a tiny bit maybe undeserved because the Raptors played very badly at points in this game. But at the same time, I mean, if you're going to play that well in overtime, you probably deserve any win, right?
Yeah. First of all, I also left the room at this juncture because I love watching tense moments, but free throws for whatever reason just really get me. So I relate to you, Malik. I do. I really do. This is just another one of those classic Raptor games where they just don't really seem interested in competing at a high level at both ends of the floor for a consistent period of time. And really is when you need a guy like Kyle Lowry, like true veteran leadership who can control the ball, and Marcus Smart for that matter, who can get in your face. Udonis Haslem, maybe we'll throw him on the bench. Like you need somebody who says like, snap out of this, be a professional and play. And we just don't have that. I think what's interesting to me, especially offensively, is like it almost looks like every guy on the Raptors looks at their defender and they're like, I can take this guy. And it's just like a whole bunch, and it's true, but they go away from what works from them, which is like a lot of motion, a lot of ball movement, and they're all just kind of going ISO. And Boston's a better team defending team than they think, and they just force up a bunch of ugly shots. So it was just Toronto not being Toronto, and we've seen this with Detroit and Orlando in several games this season, and it's really frustrating to watch.
Yeah, we should give the Celtics some credit. They're a good team.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they're missing a lot of like key parts, but that team defense is still the same, no matter who's in. Obviously, the personnel is weaker, but they're the best defensive team in the NBA by a huge margin. And this is what they do to other teams; they frustrate them. So I don't know if we can. I don't know if we can put all the blame on the Raptors. It was, I think, especially early in the game, things were like just really unlucky. Like there was like that weird Tice like rebound to close the first quarter. There's just like some just bounces not going the right way. There were
some bad bounces, yeah.
And then, the offense was really ugly. Frankly, I thought the Raptors are shooting the ball concerningly poorly. I don't know if that's necessarily a shot selection thing or just not making open threes. Like, we had another night of just brutal 3-point shooting from Fred, from Gary, from Chris Boucher. Even Achua was a little bit off tonight. So we'll have to see what happens. But
they were 10 for 39, so 25%.
A lot of those are wide open too. A lot of those are wide open shots.
Yeah.
In this game, guys, it felt like going into overtime, it was Pascal Siakam versus the entire Boston Celtics team. I'm going to be honest with you guys. People are going to call me a pessimist. They're going to say Sahal's ruining the mood. But I really did feel like, I underestimated this Boston team coming into this game. And I know they've been the hottest team in the league for a couple months now. But I was thinking to myself, this may not be a blowout. It may be competitive, but there's no way it would look like this. And the Raptors made it look like that. There was a point where I think there was 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and the highest Raptor point total after Pascal Siakam was 10 points. 10 points from Gary Trent Jr. with 10 minutes left in the game. And now I'm looking at the box score. It looks a lot more pretty. Thad Young with 12 points. OG seemed like he could have got involved a lot more. And 12 shots in a game like this where Siakam feels like he has to shoot nearly 30 shots. I mean, maybe OG, I'm not going to give him too much flack for this, but I mean, it is what it is. 14 points, I think, isn't enough for OG in a game like this. We want to see OG kind of pick it up. Gary Trent just not shooting well. Fred just looked lethargic out there. Like, my goodness, there was a point in the game, guys, where my entire Twitter timeline was just talking about how Fred just looked bad. I made a couple of jokes, but the truth of the matter is Fred does not look like himself. And I know people are going to go, well, you're just focusing on all the negatives. But the fact of the matter is the Raptors just barely squeezed this out against the team missing 4 starters that probably shouldn't have been this difficult. It was a great win in the sense that you beat a very good team because let's be fair, Boston didn't become the first seed accidentally, in the East. However long they hold that first seed for, it's not by accident. Kyle said himself that he believes Boston's one of the best teams in the league. He said that, I think, over a month ago when I thought he was nuts. And it's the truth. You look at their roster depth is insane. I mean,
it brings me no joy to say it, but I think they're the favorites for the title. And I do not like Boston. I don't like the Patriots. I don't like the Red Sox. I don't like the city. I don't like Irish people, but
okay.
I'm not, I take that back about Irish people, but I think that this Boston team is incredible. Oh, Jesus Christ.
I mean, you set yourself up.
I was with you. You said you didn't like the Celtics. I was like, check mark. The Patriots, check mark. And then when you went to Irish people, I was like, you got to take that back before the comment section gets on us.
Zach Armstrong's going to be really upset.
Yeah, he seemed like he was going to lose it in this game. And the craziest part was I was watching the Boston stream. And to be fair, they didn't feel like, the Raptors were getting their fair share of calls as well. There were a lot of times Pascal Siakam was driving to the paint, and they were like, wow, didn't get a call there. And not even in a sarcastic tone. They were truthfully, flabbergasted, or whatever you want to call it, at the fact that the Raptors in Boston were just receiving a different number of calls. Grant Williams was getting superstar calls in this game. Why?
Yeah, Grant Williams was getting like Giannis type of calls.
That dude's built like a grenade launcher. I don't understand how he continuously gets these calls. I just don't get it. It gave me flashbacks to the 2020 bubble, Kyle. I don't know about you.
Yeah, the biggest difference though is that Siakam nailed everything, and I get that the defenders are different and worse, but these, some of the shot making, I think we might have buried the lead. Some of the shot making for Pascal Siakam, he's an all NBA player, and we'll talk more about his case for all NBA and what the voting will look like later. But he just had a night. I actually really thought he was going to go for 50, and that was without the overtime in the first half, just because he had everything cooking. And
they went away from him.
Yeah, they did go away from him, and a lot of that is just guys frankly being selfish and thinking that they deserve touches when they don't deserve touches. Why I don't want to do this as a win, but there's some of the precious moments tonight were really ugly. I think OG coming back has been really bad for both Scotty's offense and OG's offense, meaning OG's offense is Scotty's emergence when OG was out is makes it so that OG's struggling more than he was earlier in the year, and OG's return has made it more difficult for Scotty. I mean, neither of those guys look right on the offensive end, and I think that they kind of want to operate in the same space. It's a little frustrating because although OG had a good night tonight, you kind of don't I'm kind of like, what's the point of having Scotty out there if you're just gonna like park his ass in the corner? Like, he's not a great shooter. He's not really the type of player you want parked in the corner. You at least want him cutting or in the dunker role or, you know, screening or something. But just in general, the offense looks so whack with this team if it's not Pascal, and then it looks incredible with Pascal.
Yeah.
Like if they're hitting threes, it looks a lot better. I think they had that problem earlier in the season when everybody was healthy too. Like Scotty, kind of fell off the cliff for a couple of games when I think everybody's back. Basically, it's going to take some time for them to adjust to each other. I don't think we can like hate on Pascal or Precious's game all that much. Like I don't think he was any more out to lunch or doing or shooting poor shots more than anybody else. Like there was just a lot of stagnancy generally, and Precious's defense in the game was elite. Like other than Pascal's defense in overtime, Precious was the best defender for the Raptors tonight.
Oh yeah,
like he had that sequence where I'm gonna botch it, but he blocked I think Tice at the rim, and then he blocked maybe White on that pull up jumper. Like he played such good defense.
Yeah, the block that he had on Tice at the rim, I legitimately, it was one of those where it's like I have no idea how he got there, because I think they tried to run zone. It was like a sideline out of bounds. They tried to run a zone, and just Boucher and I forget who it was, maybe Thad, just completely lost. Both try to help and the same guy. And Tice is wide open under the hoop, and I don't know how, or not Tice. I'm sorry, that's Cornet, Luke Cornet.
Yeah,
and
Luke Cornet.
I have no idea how he got there. Like
no,
the recovery speed.
It was Hauser.
Okay, excuse me. Hauser.
Both
Pritchard, Hauser, and Cornet are like three different versions of the same guy at different points. Okay, like that's at least what they look like from up here. They're all the same dude. It's like slightly, in 4-inch increments. But I don't know how he's a full step behind, and he's just like his arms are so long. He gets off the ground so quickly. His timing as a shot blocker is improved. Like he's incredible defensively.
Such a waste of a challenge. Like that play, 1,000 times over, they call that as a block. Like every game you see you don't every game, but you see a lot of those. It's a no-brainer block, and they call a goaltend. Like back to the refs quickly. Like I don't like squawking about refs because it's just like I think it balances out over time. Whatever. What pisses me off though is the imbalance. Like it's so frustrating. Like that there's a lack of consistency, and also that it goes like it kills the flow of the game. Like there were so many ticky-tacky fouls that just like took the joy out of this game. I don't mind it being rough. I don't mind you not calling stuff, but do it both ways and edge on the side of not over calling a game. And they totally took the fun out of this game.
Yeah, so many times when momentum seemed to be going the Raptors' way, and the referees just ended that momentum with the whistle. Like I said earlier, Grant Williams was apparently Kawhi Leonard or James Harden in 2019. This game, I don't know what was confused as to why Grant Williams was making these calls, specifically Grant, because Grant Williams and Peyton Pritchard have this thing where every time they play the Raptors, they ascend into these star players that I don't understand why it happens. Jason Tatum, when he's in the game, Jaylen Brown, they play like themselves. It is what it is. You know what you're going to get from your superstars. But those two guys, Grant Williams and Peyton Pritchard, I don't know. I don't know what it is. Those guys, I guess they're just ascending on the Raptors. What are we calling them? Raptor killer rankings. They're up there with the Gerald Henderson. Who else do we got up there, Adon?
Rudy Gay until he joined the team.
Yeah.
And never again.
Yeah. Jimmy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a ton of guys on that list.
Jimmy Fight Me Butler.
Yeah.
LeBron is like the leader of that entire group. He's the GM, the team captain.
Yeah, LeBron is the GM, the president, whatever you want to call him, of that Raptor killer ranking list. Who else are we forgetting, guys, in the comment section? I feel like there's so many more players. Oh, Doug McDermott's a huge one. Oh my goodness, Doug McDermott has given me fits.
Magruder's had a couple of bad.
Rodney Magruder. Yeah, he has. I don't know how. You can just say the whole Detroit Pistons team, really. Yeah, and then it's just Dwayne Casey and LeBron fighting for that title, really. So, but yeah,
Right
let's
now.
move on. Guys, I feel awful because in these types of games, when Pascal Siakam has incredible performances, like I said earlier, 40 points on 17 for 29 shooting, only went to the free throw line 8 times. Still don't understand that, but I just feel like no matter how much we talk about how great Pascal has been these last few months, we still haven't done him, enough justice. And in this game, I watched a guy that I was like, if this man is not in the All NBA, forget the discussion now. Like at this point, if Pascal's playing at this level, there's what 2 weeks of the season left. I don't see how he's not at the minimum All NBA third team, because now that we're at the point where I believe I saw a report earlier today that said Jokic and Embiid can both be classified as a center or forward in the All NBA discussion, right? So in that case, if you get both of those guys in the first team, am I crazy to say if Pascal keeps this up, we could possibly see him in the second team? I mean, who's his competition? Because in that case, Giannis is going to make the first team, Jokic is going to make the first team, and Embiid's going to make the first team, right? I know maybe Durant is on the second team. Am I missing anyone? Booker probably makes the second team.
LeBron, depending
Yeah,
on how
LeBron
you
for
value
sure.
wins. I think you kind of touched on this, but the fact that Embiid and Jokic are both eligible as centers and forwards is really bad for Pascal's case, because that means that one of them is going to take up, if they both make the first team, one of them is going to take a forward spot up. Instead, I mean, it'd be best for Pascal. I don't think it's right for the league, but it'd be best for Pascal if like Jokic was the first center and Embiid is the second team center, and that frees up a forward spot. But
I can we talk about the game and we can maybe get back to this?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a lot to unpack with. Yeah. Totally.
When it comes to the game, guys, in the fourth quarter, it's kind of where things change for the Raptors in those last couple minutes. And then overtime is where things completely flipped, right? Can we talk about Thaddeus Young a bit in this game? Because
that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, because I haven't seen a Raptor fit in so seamlessly into this team for a while. I know we are getting some comments, guys, that the audio was going in and out, or it was skipping, or there were some inconsistencies there, but we apologize. We are not getting skipping on our end. So if there is an issue, maybe refresh the link. It could be us, though. Could be us. So
we're getting goods.
You guys need to stop streaming this on your Game Boy Advances and your Game Boy Colors. Okay, take out the laptop, right, and
go to
follow along. Follow along. Yeah, that was one of my tweets. Thaddeus Young just fitting in seamlessly. Look at it. Like he's blending in. He's just camouflaging with the rest of the Raptors. It's perfect. I think Thad, I said this as soon as the Raptors traded for him. His basketball IQ is so high, and it's so difficult for a guy to have a hard transition into a team or a rocky transition into a team when your basketball IQ is that high. He just knows where he's supposed to be at all times. Smart guy, veteran. He's seen absolutely everything. He's seen every defensive scheme. Yeah, Adon, Thad Young, what did you think about his game?
I mean, this is kind of like what we wanted to get from him when we traded for him. It's just it's like that veteran presence where he's not really shook by the moment, and he doesn't give a shit if it's the 12th guy on the Boston team or it's the first guy. He's gonna work hard. He's gonna remain professional, and he was just everywhere. He got hands on all kinds of balls. He was hitting his shot, which is really helpful, but he just he was the backbone when we needed somebody to rely on. And it was pretty evident. I think I can't remember, someone tweeted out that like, I think we should bench Scotty and put in Thad, and that's exactly what Nurse did until Scotty came back in and then fouled out. And it's just like, that just provided that grit that we needed tonight.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the benching Scotty was as much of like a performance thing, and as it's probably had to do with the fact that he had 5 fouls.
He wasn't playing very
10
well.
minutes left in the game. No, he wasn't playing well, and we can maybe get into that later. But yeah, Thad was everywhere. I liked, even though Ochoa was probably a better defender, I liked the group that they had closing with him out there instead of Achua. This was like before Siakam fouled out, because he's just so much more responsible with the ball. Like maybe he can't get as much going if you need a like end of shot clock thing, and he's less of a he's worse 3-point shooter, but he's just so responsible. He's the adult in the room, and sometimes they need that. It's the same thing we talk about with Kem Birch, and like, not to get into this thing yet, but it's like sometimes you just need a guy who's like, I'm happy being the fifth guy. I'm going to swing the ball. I'm going to keep the ball moving. I'm going to set like screens. I'm going to cut stuff. Like, that's the kind of stuff that makes it like the engine run. And so, not to get on Precious, but Thad just gives you a lot more on the offensive end. And that you can see in that fourth quarter plus overtime is
I don't know
+3.
that he gives you a lot more. I'm going to push back on that, but I do think at times the difference is Thad understands seamlessness, right? Like, he understands flow. He's like a hinge point to the offense, and he like fills the cracks. Precious, you could see it today, like multiple times, just looked at his guy and it's like, I can bet, like I was talking about earlier, I'm better than you. I'm going to take you, and he didn't.
Yeah,
and it's just like, you've got to pick and choose your moments. And all I'm saying is Precious wasn't alone in this. OG did it. Freddie did it. Gary did it. The only guy that was successful constantly was Pascal. But Thad's like, awareness on the court and ability to kind of facilitate helps when guys like Boucher and Precious are just not really locked in.
Yeah, it sucks because this ended up being a game where you got almost nothing from Chris and Precious, considering how well they've played in the last couple months. I mean, bar maybe the standout block that Precious had and the big three that Chris had. I mean, you just wanted a lot more from those two guys, and really just the rest of the Raptors in general. I mean, yes, Thaddeus Young had a very good, end of fourth quarter / overtime. But again, Chris didn't play for a reason. 14 minutes. He was bare, and it sucks because Chris has been so good and he's been so consistent for a couple months now. But maybe this is just an off game. Maybe he can just this is just like a throwaway for him. Precious, I mean, yeah. But when you're looking at the bench guys, you got to give it up to Thad. Look at Will Lou's tweet. I didn't even see this. Masai puts his arm around Thad as he walks down the tunnel to the locker room. Good old Masai, man. He's always in that tunnel, man.
There's a video. It's great. Don, if you can put up that video, it's pretty cute.
It is. I love it.
I mean, but yeah, again, we gotta even though Precious didn't play well offensively, his defense was like really good tonight. Really, really good.
Yeah, guys, in this game there wasn't. I mean, Gary Trent. It's been a difficult. I want to say like a difficult month for him. Take away that 42-point game versus Phoenix, if you guys remember that. I think it was 2 weeks ago, about a couple weeks ago. It's been pretty difficult. I know he also had a big game versus the Lakers. But Gary Trent, man, it hasn't looked all that great in the last month. And in this game, it kind of continued his shooting woes. He was 4 for 12. I think what's most... this is so cool. I love this. And then there's the head of security behind them. I love Masai, his realization of the fact that, hey, I traded for this guy, and yes, I gave away our first round pick this year, but Thad Young's been good for us. He's been really good for us, and who knows? I mean, at this rate, I wouldn't mind Thad Young back next year as a rotation guy.
Is also like kind of the difference between like in leadership styles, I guess, but the one like unafraid to show like emotion and appreciation. And like that's like a true embrace, I just find that like I like seeing. I think Nurses does that, and Masai does that, and that's what I love about this team is there's genuine love amongst the players, and I think that a lot of that comes from Masai.
Yeah,
Nathan.
For sure.
We should mention Nathan Misen.
Oh wow! Thank you, Nathan, for the super chat. $13.99.
Is that a record high for the season?
No, I swear we got 50 one night.
Yeah, we got 50. We got 20 a couple times.
You missed that.
No way.
I know.
You're holding out on
me. We were partying afterwards, but we're going to party tonight with this 14. But yeah,
I want to know the number of significance. Sorry.
Anyway, no, because we're on sale. $13.99. Like, I will have any opinion you want.
Yeah.
I do think, I don't know about shutting down Fred VanVleet, but I
Yeah.
just don't see why he's playing 40 minutes when I not terrific performance, hasn't been great recently, clearly injured. I get that it's like he's not going to be 100% until you clean up the knee surgically, but surely some rest would help him. No, am I crazy for saying that?
No, you're not.
Freddie's talked about it. Apparently, rest isn't going to do much. Like, I think once there's swelling, you gotta rest them. So yeah, I guess maybe in
It's
that
just
sense.
Yeah, it's just a maintenance thing, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to get any better. So it's like you rest him intermittently, but you got to keep him going because conversely, if he gets rusty or like stiffens up, it might. That probably won't be an issue. But I don't. It's not like they're running him on a finite number of games. I think he is what he is right now, and yeah.
I want to remind everyone that tweet up there, that was at the 5-minute mark. And I just had a feeling that Fred, was going to be invisible all game and then just decide to hit a couple big threes, which is exactly what he did. So I'm going to need some of that credit, guys, because I've seen Fred do that all too often this season, where in those cold games, we get nothing. And then he just decides, okay, guys, it's time to play some basketball. Hits a couple threes, a nice layup. And next thing you know, Fred's back in the game. So it was nice. It was very nice to see Fred do that in this game. This shot was incredible. Step back.
Yeah, that was
right on, I think, Marcus Smart. And then this was nice on Peyton Pritchard. Just give me that. It's cookies. Goes up, finishes with the lay.
I didn't want that to be a flag, or like I didn't think at the time there was a problem with that foul. But if you do look at it, and it's mostly because he's so short, he doesn't really make a play on the ball at all. He just throws his body at Fred. So, the fact that they review Siakam's like bicep blow to Grant Williams' head and they don't even review that I think it's kind of like bias where they're like, okay, we already killed 10 minutes of the game by looking at Grant Williams' foul. We can't just then review this one. But that one was pretty shady to me.
Yeah, for sure. Fred has some balls, I'll tell you that much, because that shot where he missed so much of the net, I think it's the next clip after this one. He missed so much of the net. Like this shot right here. And then Thad Young is just there to save him. And then he just puts it up right after. I don't know. You got to have some balls to do that.
He also had a really weird miss at the end of maybe it was the third quarter. It was like a shot clock end in the fourth quarter. It was like some sort of late clock situation. He missed like the rim and everything. So I don't know. Something's off. He made some big shots on the stretch. All credit to him. But 4 for 13, 3 for 9 from 3. Not great, not excellent. And I think someone mentioned it. I wish why, like, okay, so fine, rest doesn't do him any help. It's like he played 40 minutes tonight, and so whatever, that's 35 before overtime. Why is Armani Brooks not in the game why can't you buy 5 minutes with Armani Brooks or Banton, or you go a little bit bigger and have like the offense run through Scotty, any of those options. And like, that's not even to mention Yuta Watanabe, which I shouldn't even bring up on this podcast because we'll not get out of the conversation. But
here you go. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, and I was looking at this earlier. Like, man, this guy's got to get a grip, big time. Thanks, Oren. Thanks for the comment. Yeah, that is really pathetic. This guy has always seemed like one of the worst dudes. Just
Los Angeles Daily News.
No, he's I thought he was a Boston local guy.
Then we got a different.
Yeah, Keith Smith, I think, works for CBS. I'm not going to say anything because, first of all, Keith and I follow each other, and Keith and I have disagreed before, and we've agreed before. So, yeah, he's. Right. I'm not
lay into him. Fuck that. He just called us an unhappy bunch of idiots.
Well, he said Raptors fan.
That's me.
Oh, that was you.
Raptors fan. He's just bad. He doesn't. For a journalist, his grammar's poor. He's saying plural, general, all of us.
Yeah, 300 guys.
That's so it's like a fit of rage when it's like you're not even proofreading the tweet. He's at get it out there.
Kyle, he's at 347 quote tweets right now. He's going to be at 500 by the time we're done this live show. So Yeah, Raptors fans. I mean, if you guys have Twitter, you know how vicious Raptors fans can get, or passionate, I should say. Vicious sounds a bit on the negative side, but Raptors fans are very passionate. And when you tweet like that, especially if you have a blue check mark, Raptors fans will be in your mentions. So
Should I invite
good
him on
luck.
the pod?
I mean, yeah, you can. I could shoot him a DM too, and just
You should
Do it.
shoot him
really
a
quick.
DM.
Do it.
You have the opportunity to explain yourself, Keith. Because the follow-up tweet was pretty like conciliatory. It was like something along the lines of like, I don't even hate the Raptors. Like I like Nick Nurse, but these fans, it's like, dude, come on. Like you have 80,000 followers. Like what? Like who cares? Like what a couple fans have to say. Yeah, come on, man. Come on.
Yeah.
You have 80,000 people following.
You wouldn't see Blake Murphy tweeting that. No, I'm joking. I'm not going to do that. Yeah, Keith, I'm not going to incite any Twitter violence or anything like that and tell you guys, because normally if it was someone I didn't know or didn't care about, I'd just be like, go get him. But I'll leave that to Adon and Kyle for them to say that. So, yeah, Keith Smith,
Okay.
NBA guys.
Back to the game.
Yeah, guys, I want to expand on the Armani Brooks thing because I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm usually online on the same line as Nick Nurse. I'm usually following his ideas and what he wants to do rotation wise, and I get it. But in this one, I just don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't see how Pascal can be the only guy scoring efficiently for the first 3.5 quarters of this game, and you're not going to Armani. Fred looks like he can barely run up the court. Malachi Flynn is injured. You don't have a guard. I mean, Armani just got signed to a 2-year deal. I think they just converted his 2-way deal earlier this week. So this is a guy that the franchise believes in. The organization believes in Armani Brooks. I'm not saying just because you sign him to a 2-year deal, he deserves a certain amount of minutes every game. Sure, he's going to get his DNPs. He's like every other Raptors bench player. I mean, we talk about Utah enough and Justin and all these guys. And but in this game, Armani's played so good these last couple weeks off the bench in the limited minutes he's gotten. I'd love to see Fred in the low 30s in terms of his minutes and get Armani 10, 12 minutes at the minimum. Like get him something, see if something can change. I mean, normally you guys know me, myself, and Adon for that matter. We're always going to clamor for a guy like Utah. But in this game, guys, I need to see Armani Brooks out there. I need to. And I know we won, and I know we're just looking at the past now and saying, we won. It is what it is. We won without him. But when you need some sort of shooting help, get the kid in there. Something's got to change, Nick. Like something. Am I right, Adon? Or something's got to change.
I mean, they clearly wanted to get Gary back in motion. But I think more generally, this game screamed for a Popovich benching of the starters. Like leave Pascal out there and a full-on slate change.
Run them all out there.
Yeah, like put Yuta on there, put Armani on there, and prove a point. Like you guys can't come out into one of the biggest games of the season against a B squad and shit the bed and not play like you play when you play Miami or the Clippers or whatever. So it wasn't just that. I wasn't upset that just Armani didn't play. I was upset that we didn't get a wholesale change to kind of send a message. But I do think Armani just got here, and Gary Trent is our core, and he's going to play a big part in the playoffs because Freddie's not at full capacity. So you had to get him his run, but he did play 36 minutes. Like it was pretty heavy considering he shot 4 for 12. So
Kyle, you got to be in favor of the Armani exchange. You see what I mean?
Honestly, yeah, the Armani exchange. They should have fucking exchanged him for Fred earlier in the game. I agree. But to me, this was probably a good night to just not play Fred at all. Give him a night off. Give him some extended rest. It's not like he was particularly impactful tonight, except for he made some great shots down the stretch, but it's like, would those have even been necessary if he hadn't shot 4 for 13 earlier in the game? And typically you'd say, okay, he's a great defender, and he is, he's playmaking. He only really had 3 assists tonight, but he was moving the ball. I think he's a good presence, like morale wise, but like he can't move laterally very well. He's his stamina is clearly impacted. Like I just think you need to get a guy nights off, and that's not like we know what Fred is at full strength. That's not to disparage Fred. No, I'm not saying that Fred's like a bad player. I'm saying like the guy's obviously injured. You need to find a way to rest him. You got to figure it out.
I think the most noticeable thing about Freddie's game is a couple of times he got kind of into the key and he didn't want to do anything and he almost like pulled it out again.
Normally he like seeks contact against bigs. It didn't seem like either he didn't want to go to the free throw line and shoot because that would be a mental issue. I think that would be more concerning. But to me, it's like he's not confident that he could bump off a guy and fall correctly and not hurt himself. So, and I get what Zerar's saying. Like, he's not dying. He will be fine, but he'll be fine sooner, and he'll be more fine if he rests. I don't know. I just don't. I don't think that they're missing him a lot right now when he doesn't play. Like
that said, he scored 2 big clutch threes. So
he did, yeah, definitely, and that's what I love about Fred. I feel like, I know,
does it have
and
to
it's
be
gonna
like that?
When we reach the playoffs, when the Raptors reach the playoffs, it's gonna reach a point where we see it every single April. The pace is gonna slow down in each game. We're gonna see a lot of half-court settings for the Raptors, and Fred looks like he struggles to break down his guy in the half court. Much like I think earlier on, if you guys remember, he was kind of resting that knee. He came back for a bit, and then he went back to, that load management schedule where he sat off for a bit, and then now he's back again. So, Zerar, I do agree with you to a point, but I think right now what we're seeing from Fred, it scares me a little bit because once you reach the playoffs, things are going to get even more difficult, and the defense is going to get even more honest, especially at the top. The point of attack defenders Fred's going to see is going to be insane. So, I don't want to get to the point where we're halfway through a first round playoff series and we go, you know what, we should have saw this coming with Fred. Do we rest him for the rest of the season? I don't know. I feel like we're getting a lot of different comments on what people want to do. Zerar made a really, really good point, though, in this game. And Pascal, if you guys remember, got 5 fouls. I think it was in the fourth quarter he got his 5th foul. And Pascal, I don't understand. With Pascal, the discipline you have to play with is insane when you're on 5 fouls. Like, people do not understand that when you're on 5 fouls, you almost have to avoid any contact defensively. Of course you can do the usual, but I mean, when a game's called like this and everything's a tic-tac foul, that discipline's insane. So you got to give Pascal some credit, because for him to play that hard defensively and then to take what it felt like almost every shot for the Raptors offensively, wow. Like it just goes back to I can't believe what type of game he had. A lot of people are saying Fred needs to rest. I get it. Yeah. I see it. But again, Adon made a really good point where it's like Fred said it himself. Rest is not going to do much at this point for him. So it's such a tough situation to be in. It's really tough. And if the Raptors had a very deep bench, I mean, if you had a guy like 2017, 2018 DeLon Wright coming off the bench is a very good bench point guard, or a very good bench combo guard, then I mean, you're not going to play Fred as much. But when you have a guy like Armani Brooks, where he's not play him, you can play him, but he's just not, I think, authentic enough in this league, where he's just hasn't gotten enough opportunities in this league to really prove himself. And I think for me, yes, I've said I would love for Armani to play in this game, but I think for me, it's so tough. Like, the Raptors are in such a tough situation because the bench sucks. I'm going to be totally honest with you. The Raptors bench is not good. It's not a great situation to be in. You're not bringing Svi off the bench. Clearly Nick's not bringing Utah off the bench. So I think they're in a tough situation to do, relative to Fred and how you approach the playoffs. I don't know. I'm not sure what the Raptors should do at this point. I've said he should rest, and I've also said he shouldn't. So I don't know where I stand. I'm kind of on the fence a little bit.
Yeah, it is worth noting, and I say this every show, but it's like no guy is going to be who wants to play and likes playing and is a competitor and is willing to play through an injury is going to be like, yeah, I probably need some rest. Like he's obviously going to say, oh, rest does nothing for me because he wants to play. And I get that. But what else I get is that it's tax season. And while we're here, I get a lot of stuff.
I almost forgot.
I think we incorrectly said last time that the taxes were due in early April. I'm almost certain it's early May. Either way, it's the tax season. And I don't know. What do you guys think? Because
no brainer.
Had a tremendous game, but like, is it a Thad Young type of night?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, how many other chances is he going to have?
We may get slandered in the comment section if we name our player of the game Thaddeus Young over Pascal Siakam.
Aiden, if you want it to be Thad, I'm on board with it. You have to present it. You need to give the Thad
that's going to be all you,
this take, but I'll be
leaving that to you.
politely. I'll be politely helping.
It's just so boring to choose the guy who had the best game out there.
Yeah,
like, you gotta honor like the little guy, just the same way VJ Verma helps out the little guy with this tax service.
Aiden, that was good, man. I like that.
We're going crazy tonight. We gotta the price is going up.
Yeah, if you're watching this, guys, you need to call VJ Verma. The phone number's at the top, 416-243-2912. You can also visit canmtax.com. And now this is the part where I roll out the red carpet for Aiden Moss to deliver who our taxman of the night is.
I happily, is this his first one? I'm not sure. I feel like it probably is. Happily give this award to Thaddeus Young.
Nice.
He had 4 stocks, 12 points, 8 rebounds, showed a little bit of everything, showed his 2008 herky-jerky game. He just was, he showed up when you needed him to. He fills the gaps, and he works in a unique style and a gritty style that is anomalous to anybody in the league, essentially, particularly the Toronto Raptors. And he held us together in a lot of moments. So I'm happy to give this to Thaddeus Young.
Yeah, I mean, the comment section seems fine with it. I thought you were going to get a lot of slander in the comment section, but they seem like they're okay with it. We're seeing.
No, they know the premise by now. We've been doing it for long enough that they know the premise of Taxman. They understand that it's
the
not
premise
the
of Taxman is there is no premise to Taxman.
Yeah, it's not the best performer. It's we're operating purely on the vibrations of the air, and tonight the vibrations are telling us it's a Thad Young Taxman night.
I have been on the Thad Young train for one of the first Raptors Republic things I ever did is I went on a pod with Samson, and I just written an article about Thad, and we rated about Thad for 15, 20 minutes. It's just he's the exact guy you want to play pickup ball with, where he's going to work harder than everybody else on the floor, and he's going to pass you the ball, and he's going to score when you need him to. He's just he's a quintessential basketball player, even though it all looks ugly and weird. And I just love that about him. So I'm glad that he finally got a game that he could kind of call his as best he can at this stage in his career.
Yeah. Thaddeus Young is your taxman of the night. Matt, we're not going to do that. I like that. Mike, I do like that. Who's your daddy? I like that a lot. We might start using that. And I don't know if you're going to get credit every single time for it, but we might start using that.
He has to come back on and we'll do it.
Exactly. Matt, I see what you're saying, but the Gerald Henderson Award, I can't remember if Samson does that or if Will Liu does that. I don't know who does that, but someone has those little award things. I think it's Samson, the Gerald Henderson Award.
Next.
Let's get into questions, I guess.
You got a lot of questions.
I was gonna say questions. I was gonna say questions, but I wanted to get into some Marcus Smart slander, some Grant Williams slander. But
let's do it. I'm not going to slander him, so let's do it.
Yeah.
I starred this one. Daniel asked, I have so much disdain for Marcus Smart. I think he didn't ask, he just said, I think he's nowhere near as good as he thinks he is, and I'm so glad we beat him. What are your thoughts on Marcus Smart?
Yeah. Marcus Smart for me, guys, is that he's that one guy who I know if he was a Raptor, people would love him.
Hell yeah.
But I feel like the 29 other fan bases in the league absolutely despise him.
That's what makes him so great.
When he flopped against Scotty Barnes, That was a flop. I didn't even have to see the replay. Scotty Barnes did not run him over. Smart, I think, set a screen, and next thing you know, Smart's on the floor and he's laughing afterwards. He gets us with those every game we play the Celtics, and I hate it. And you know, if you're a Celtics, you know, fan watching this, yes, there are. Sorry, I didn't want that to. This is true. Gerald Henderson Award is Will. See, that's why I was mixing it up. So it is from Will Lou from his Raptors Republic days. Okay, but back to Marcus Smart. I don't know, Aiden, if I can say I hate him, because I know if he was a Raptor, I would love him. But he just gets under my skin so much, and I hate. You know, Peyton Pritchard's a guy like I'm like, okay, you know what? He's a Raptor killer. It is what it is. But Marcus Smart just does those little things that just pisses me off, and he laughs when I'm in pain, and I hate it. And yeah, he is annoying. That's exactly what he is. But again, Aiden, I know Aiden, you're a fan of his game, right? So, what did you think about Marcus Smart?
Offensively, there's a lot of problems. Like I mean, tonight is not indicative of anything because he's really the number one option. He takes too many threes. I think I haven't watched too many Boston games this year, but I think a lot of their success has been Marcus Smart being a little bit more point guardy than combo guardy. And I think that's what he should have been all along. Like he should have cared about defensive player of the year and been a distributor and shot the open threes instead of being a chucker like Ryan said. So I think that's what's been frustrating about him. But he's like David Thorpe said on the podcast, Zach Lowe podcast, like he chose him as his defensive player of the year. And like there's no question that he is a top tier defender, unlike Pat Bev, who's like an okay defender and a little like termite. And so like I don't think they're comparable. And he's not cheap. He's like Chris Paul. Chris Paul's a pain in the ass too, but like he's just trying to get calls where he can, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, he's like the no-name brand version of Kyle Lowry.
I knew you were going to say that. I was going to say the Dollarama brand.
He's a terrific player. No one's going to like him at all. And honestly, he's had a great year. I would love if the Raptors were offered him in some capacity. I would take him, like, you know, without disrupting the court. I think he's a tremendous player. I don't know if I agree with the defensive player of the year because to me, I just have my philosophy is like that seems like rewarding someone who's like the best defender on the best defensive team, which I don't really think should be
part of his logic.
Yeah, I don't think that should be part of like you're not going to ever convince me that like Marcus Smart is a better defender than like those like rangy wing types like the Kawhis or even like a Draymond Green. I get that Draymond doesn't have a case because he missed time, but terrific player. We should move on to this. How do you guys feel about the starting five? I like the closing five.
Starting five was, I mean, I've said it so many times, guys. When you look at the starting five in a vacuum before they even start playing, you're like, wow, this is a talented group. Like this group is, and they complement each other pretty well. Like you have guys who are playmakers, a few guys who can shoot. Like OG's back. He's not 100% healthy. Like we could tell OG's not fully there yet, but when he is, which is hopefully around playoff time, you might see a different, output from this, from the starters. But I don't know. Scotty went from having an incredible month or so to just kind of free falling a bit. And then Fred, obviously we've mentioned Fred enough. We're not going to mention him again. Gary, like I said, has struggled, save for a couple games this month. And then Pascal's been the only consistent point. So I don't know. I think you just keep running them out there. You just keep running them out there, and hopefully things are going to get better and guys are going to start falling into place.
I said this last game. My starting five right now would be Birch, Barnes, Siakam, Freddie, OG. Because I just think, like you were saying earlier, Sahal, like it's too crowded. There's too much overlap right now. I don't think we're getting the best of Scotty. I don't think we're getting the best of OG. And I think having this small lineup, I would be interested about the plus minus. I haven't loved this small like starting five lineup. And I just think that having Birch on the bench with Precious and Boucher is too many bigs on the bench, and it doesn't leverage our depth to the best of its ability. And so I would bring Gary off the bench.
Yeah. While we're talking about leveraging players, I think I'm kind of getting to the point where it's like, I don't know about the OG and Scotty minutes. Like, obviously you need to close with those two guys. I think those are two of your 5 best players. But I think you kind of need to stagger those guys if OG is going to want to get his own offense. And so OG's been back for 3 games. In those games, Scotty, let me just bring these up. In those games, Scotty is, 11 points, 19 points, 10 points, around 5.5 assists, not really getting many touches. Highest shot output was tonight at 12, and didn't really feel like he was particularly involved tonight. He's getting frozen out, and I don't know if that's about whether they can coexist. I don't know what it is, but he's getting frozen out of the offense. I kind of hate it. Yeah.
I think, guys, when you look at the rotation, I'm kind of with Adon, and I know a lot of you will not like hearing Gary Trent, the proposition of him sitting on the bench or coming off of the bench. I don't want to say sitting on the bench because that just seems like you're lowering his minute total or whatever it is. But I kind of agree, and my reasoning's a little bit different as well. So just to add on to what Adon said, I think Gary has proved to be one of the best isolation one-on-one offensive players on this team. And I think if you could stagger him with a couple bench guys and a couple starters here and there, then maybe that's a better way to kind of generate offense, better way to get his confidence up. Because I'm thinking of the alternatives. I mean, you're not going to have OG off the bench because normally when you bring that guy off the bench and let's say you're inserting Kem Birch, right? We're using Adon's hypothetical here. Let's say OG sits, for example. OG's not a good isolation player, and a lot of times when you're with bench guys that can't create their own shot, you expect that one guy, like the ball gets swung to OG, you're expecting him to score in one way or another, whether it's a post up, whatever it is. OG's been working on the step back. OG hasn't been that great of an isolation scorer this season. Really and truly, the 2 best isolation scorers on this team have been Pascal and Gary Trent Jr. And I think
Scotty to some degree, but not a lot.
Yeah, Scotty's been very good at his best, but at his worst, he's the floor kind of varies with Scotty, right? The ceiling with Scotty's isolation game is incredible. I mean, sometimes you watch him and you're like, he's literally unguardable. The Lakers game, for example, nobody could guard him, including LeBron, right? So I'm kind of with you because Kem as a starter, since we've traded for Kem last season and we re-signed him, Kem has been pretty damn good as a starter. I mean, he's been consistent. He hasn't really given you consistently bad performances. So I think for that, hypothetical, I'm probably on the same boat as Adon, where I say maybe you kind of bring Gary off the bench, give him the same amount of minutes, whatever he's getting, 30 to 35 minutes a game. But I just think the synergy's not there with these 5.
I used to like him with the starters because he spaced the floor. It's like, that's just not true anymore.
A little bit,
I'm
first of all, I agree with Paul, and I disagree with you, Sahal. I do think Scotty and OG can coexist, but I don't think they can coexist with the starting, to the same degree that they could maybe do better with in the starting 5 with Pascal.
That wasn't the point I was trying to make, Adon, about Scotty and OG. I was just those were kind of specific points where I was saying OG on his own. Let's say you put OG with 3 bench guys and Fred, for example.
Right.
It's difficult because Fred right now cannot score as a shot creator right now. It's been super difficult since he's been dealing with this injury. So in my eyes, you'd rather have Gary kind of pair with, let's say, a hypothetical Armani Brooks or whoever it is coming off the bench, Precious, Chris, and then you have Fred, right, as a starter. I think definitely Scotty and OG can coexist. I just think the synergy for these 5 starters, it doesn't look good, man. It doesn't look good.
Okay, you guys ready for the data?
Also,
I want to say my premise with Gary coming off the bench is I think he would overlap with Scotty, and Scotty's bringing the ball up. So it's kind of I think they kind of work together. Okay, so the starting lineup of Siakam, Barnes, OG Anunoby, Gary Trent Jr., and Fred VanVleet have played 610 possessions. Their point differential is plus 0.9, which is a 44th percentile for lineups. So it's pretty pretty mediocre. They're 39th percentile in offense, 55th in defense. The Birch, Siakam, Barnes, Anunoby, VanVleet have only played 92 possessions, so smaller sample size. But they are actually I'm wrong. They are minus 9.2.
Wow.
So there you go.
Yeah, there was a moment, I'm kind of getting into it right now, just trying to find all of the Raptors 2-man lineups, but there was like a moment, and this is, I guess, maybe anecdotal, but the end of the third quarter, it was the last possession, the ball bounces out like off, OG grabs the rebound, Scotty demands the ball, OG's like reluctant to give it up, OG gives him the ball, Scotty kind of defers, says, okay, go take it, and basically runs to the corner, gets like planted in the corner, and OG runs some like pretty gross barfy isolation that ends in like a weird turnaround or like a pass out of a turnaround, and Scotty spends the whole possession in the corner like that. I don't know. I hate it, actually. I dislike it. I hate it.
I don't want to get things misconstrued. This was not the point I was trying to make. If I said that accidentally, I did not mean that. What I meant is that OG and Scotty singularly cannot play with a guy like Fred right now. The Fred we're seeing right now, with, let's say, Fred and 3 other bench players. Or I think Gary has a much better chance because of the fact that I believe Gary Trent Jr. is a better isolation scorer than OG is. Scotty, like I said, his ceiling as an isolation scorer, we've seen incredible things like Pascal level, all NBA level things this season from Scotty, but you're not always going to get that like you will from Pascal, right? So I don't want people to hop in my mentions after this and go, you said OG and Scotty couldn't coexist, stop that.
Also, as far as
I don't
isolations go, Gary's first on the team, 1.02 points per possession. Now he only does it 1.4 times a game, so it's much lower. But and I think a lot of that has to do with his isolation 3-point shooting. But you're right that in the numbers he's the top for the team.
Yeah, here's Josh Lewinberg from TSN, his tweet about Pascal Siakam. He says, "What's Pascal's secret to going hard defensively despite playing with 5 fouls?" Shout out to Zarar really quickly for mentioning that a couple times in the comment section. Josh says, Pascal says, for the longest time, I thought I had 4 fouls, to be honest with you. The whole time I had 5 fouls, I thought I had 4 in my head, which is kind of crazy because normally when you think you have 4, you think you have 1 to spare, right? Before you really have to start paying attention to the contact. You got to love Pascal, man. You got to love Pascal. I guess that proves how locked in he was in this game. He just was not. He was so locked in, he didn't even know how many fouls he had. You got to love Pascal. I want to wrap this up, but at the same time, guys, I can talk about this game and the Raptors for so long, and I haven't been on wrap up for like a week, so I kind of miss everybody. Is there anything else you guys want to mention, Raptors or even NBA related, before we wrap it up?
No,
we can get into the All NBA like kind of maybe a week from now. We'll really dig into it.
I mean, at this point,
shake out better.
At this point, if Pascal's not there, we're riding. No,
let's take like 3 more questions and then Vemus.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Can I just say before we move into those, out of the 2-man lineups, like I'm just looking at 2-man lineup data per 100 possessions plus minus, Scotty and OG are minus 0.8 together, so they're a net negative. Wow. And like that's you need to like qualify it with a certain number of minutes, and I haven't had enough time just on here because it's like number 1 is VanVleet and Champagny together, so it's like, whoa, we got to play Champagny more. Okay. No, I need to play around with it more to qualify with the right amount of minutes, but that's not great. It's pretty bad.
Okay, let's do Faithful Phoenix first. I have a question about Phoenix, Scotty. Yeah. Can you see him being that guy who destroys teams without volume scoring in a Magic type mold, with him showing flashes of being an elite distributor?
I don't think that exists anymore. I actually don't think that, just the way that spacing works in the modern NBA, I don't think that you can be like a guy who destroys defenses without some type of volume scoring. Like, unless you're specifically like, I mean, who's the last guy? Chris Paul. Like, who's the last guy who's
TJ
actually
McConnell?
like a full architect?
Shout out
Sorry.
TJ.
Yeah, no, but seriously, who's a full architect that doesn't have like a legitimate scoring threat. Like, I actually see, I think Scotty has the potential to be an offensive like initiator, a heliocentric offensive player, but a lot of that is going to come through like it's going to come with a lot of scoring. I don't think he has the potential to do that without scoring.
I disagree. I think he can. I think he can be the type of player who has like 12 assists, like 10 rebounds, like 2 steals and a block, and he's got like 6 points because of that heliocentricity that you're talking about. Like, I think he's going to command so much attention in the post or in transition and he has such great vision that he can be like the focal point of a team without necessarily being the scorer. It definitely depends who he's playing with. Like, there's no question about that. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. But I don't think he doesn't need to score to have a huge imprint on the game.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, I'm with both of you. Weirdly enough, because I think what Kyle was essentially saying was that you can't, say 4 or 5 years from now, hypothetically, you can't do what Scotty I think wants to do without consistently scoring at a high rate. I think Scotty is too good of a scorer at this point already. But I do again, I'm on Adon's side as well, where I can see Scotty having games where 12 assists, 10 rebounds, and whatever, right? But I think with Scotty Barnes, I think the most important thing now is just using each offseason to kind of just grow a part of his game. If you guys remember, before DeMar DeRozan left the Raptors, I think it was just before his last season with the Raptors, his ball distribution and his ball handling took such an incredible leap with the Raptors that it was like, I never would have imagined that. And then you saw his game kind of still improve with the Spurs, and now you see him in Chicago, and the guy was part of the MVP conversation like earlier this season. He's been incredible. He's likely going to be all NBA as long as the Bulls stop, free falling in the standings.
He'll get there. He'll get there.
But yeah, guys, we've spoke enough about Scotty's ceiling as a playmaker, as a scorer. He definitely can become that guy. Definitely. Volume scoring or not.
Islam, no, you're not. I would take the Heat in a heartbeat. And I think we have a second question here that sort of like is in general, like, who do we want? Yeah, who do we want in the 6th seed? Cavs and Bulls, 6, 7.
I still don't want the Heat, man. I still don't.
They're 0-4. They went 0-4 last week. They're in complete free fall. Jimmy Butler does not take threes anymore. He doesn't play from the perimeter.
They're duping you.
They're not. No one's duping me. In fact, Oren said 2 months ago, like, oh, they're the undercover pick. Like, they're not getting the championship attention. And this is when I was saying the Celtics stuff, and I got ran off the podcast for it. And I've never been more confident that the Heat are nothing. I really do not feel threatened by them. And you could clip this, and we'll see what happens, because it could look terrible.
I'm not. I can't. I do agree that the Heat have been bad. Like, I don't think. I think it was Ime Udoka, for the Celtics head coach, who was like, I've been on some teams before where, teams have purposely dropped in the standings for more favorable, outcomes in the playoffs. But I don't know if that's what the Heat are doing. They literally look like they're in a complete free fall. Like, they look like they're imploding. I don't think that back and forth between Eric Spoelstra, Jimmy Butler, and Udonis Haslem was accidental or was a joke or anything like that. I think that was a microcosm of the issues that are going on with that team. They asked Kyle Lowry recently, and I want to paraphrase because I don't have his exact quote, but he essentially said things weren't all that well in Heatland. But hey, that's Heat culture, right? Hashtag Heat culture. I still don't want to play them. I'm sorry, Kyle. I'm not. That team, the way they match up with us, I can never say I want to play them. The way they're constructed, I can't. I'd rather face Philly. I'd rather face. I don't even want to face Boston. To be
You'd rather face Philly? That is a shocker.
We didn't play Miami full strength either. Like, I mean, none of them. It's tough. I actually don't know. Like, none of those 4 teams feel that good.
Out of those 4, I would say Miami's in like a tier of its own in terms of like how easy it would be compared to the rest of them. I think the Sixers, Bucks, and Celtics are all world beaters, and I think the Heat are not even close to it.
I think I'm going Philly.
Me too, man.
You're talking about like we're talking about guys who can kill you, and it's just like I don't know that Philly has like if we can really get in one of Harden or Embiid's heads, like I feel like we can really kind of battle with them.
Aiden, we have like a 4-year sample size of Nick Nurse, or maybe 3 years, I guess, right? We're in 2022. Oh my God, we're in 2022. We have a 3 or 4 year sample size of Nick Nurse giving Joel Embiid an absolute fit. Like this isn't a 1-game thing. It's not a 2-game thing. Joel Embiid struggles when he plays the Raptors, regular season or playoffs. Like he struggles a lot. And I don't want to take away what he did in that playoff series, in 2019. Oh my goodness. Like every time I say the years, I'm like, I really cannot believe it's 2022.
You old, man.
Because, yeah, I know. Because I do think Embiid was arguably the best player in that series, but he struggles. And Nick Nurse has the solution. I used to say Nick Nurse had the solution for Giannis because Giannis, we saw what he did in the playoffs. He kind of struggled a little bit and then came back and obviously won a title, right? Good for Giannis. But I'm taking Philly, man. Harden, I read an article about Harden recently. He's finishing at a career low rate at the rim. The explosion is not there from James Harden anymore. Still an elite playmaker, still can score and draw fouls. But I think we match up really well against Philly. Milwaukee and Boston, hell no. Chicago, I guess if things change wildly, sure. But yeah, I can't do Miami, Milwaukee, or Boston.
Boston would be a fucking war. I mean, so would Miami. I mean, they both would, but like, I think they just are so tough. That in the way that really hampers our style. Like, you saw today, like I gotta see what the rebounding was, but like they held us off the boards like mightily.
Yeah, it was nasty.
It was 16-16 in offensive rebounds, which is like a success for them. They had 6 more defensive rebounds than us. Like they did a very good job sealing out. The one thing is that Robert Williams is injured. I think maybe that's something to kind of like that bodes well in our favor. But assuming health, I think like they would be nasty.
Yeah, well, we will only. I think all of us have set ourselves up for like. I think we've covered all our bases, so that someone's
we're bringing this clip back, Kyle.
No, I'm just saying we've all made a take like that could easily be thrown back in our face.
Yep.
Yeah, we've covered all of our bases.
We don't know.
And that's all we really wanted to do is that
we don't know anything.
No, listen. At the end of the day, I think the Raptors are solidly out of the play-in now. Knock on wood.
Let's talk about that. So they're tied with Chicago right now. For Chicago is the tiebreaker. So we're 6th. We're game up on Cleveland, who also won tonight, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Boston's
we're 2 games up on Cleveland.
Or sorry, yeah, we're 1 full game.
Are you sure it's not 2 full games?
The Bulls lost against the Knicks tonight.
4.5 to 5.5.
Bad.
That's 1 game back.
Oh, I'm reading 6.
Of course, the Sacramento Kings are the team that gets Miami Heat back on track. Like the Kings are they're just the league's punching bag, man. Like you trade for Sabonis and just.
What happened?
I said, of course, the Kings are the team that gets the Miami Heat back on track. They blew them out, 123 to 100. So.
Yeah, but no one. I don't think Sabonis and Fox. I think weren't playing. They've been injured for a while.
Yeah, it says Davion Mitchell was their top scorer. So.
And they had it back to back.
I would assume so.
They won in overtime against Orlando last night.
Yeah.
So.
Let's look at the Bulls' remaining games here and the Raptors' remaining games. And let's head out. The
Raptors have a lot of games at home, so that's what I know for sure, which is very good news for them. The Bulls. Let me take a quick look at their schedule. So what are we looking at? Is that we
got Mini on Wednesday. Orlando, we're obviously going to lose. I feel like this is really going to be an interesting end to the season because the top 4 spots aren't defined yet. I would like to say is where the first choosing their own opponent would be really cool because you got 4 teams all battling for first, second, third, and fourth right now. And so we don't know what's going to happen towards the end. So like Miami could sit guys for all we know, or Philly could sit guys for all we know, depending on what the standings are at. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, so if we look, I can read off the Bulls schedule. They play Washington, the Clippers, then they played Miami, Milwaukee, and Boston back to back. Well, no, for Miami, and then Milwaukee and Boston on a back to back. That's a really tough 3-game stretch. I think with the way the Bulls are playing, that's 3 losses. So,
wow.
If the Raptors can, I don't know. I think it's looking like the Raptors might hop in that 5 seed. And then at that point, it's like they could even choose to tank a couple games at the end of the season to get a 3-6 matchup instead of a 4-5, because right now the Celtics are in the 5th seed.
Interesting.
We'll have to see how that
plays out. I mean, we talk about this all the time. So Trace makes a really, really good point. Sorry, I'm going to re-highlight that, because we talk about, what teams would give us trouble all the time. We disagree sometimes vehemently with each other. We don't talk about the other side of things. I don't think any team wants to run into the Raptors, to be quite honest with you. I don't think no, Islam. I'm not doing any research. I just was looking at my phone for a sec. I don't think any team wants to face the Toronto Raptors. I've seen national writers tweet that. So I don't think this is a Raptors bias thing. I genuinely think that the Toronto Raptors are at the point now in the season where they've beaten enough elite teams in this league. Yes, they've lost against, the Pistons and the Magic, and, but we don't like talking about those. We only talk about it when we beat the good teams. So I think we're at the point now where we can say these Raptors are legit. They can beat any team on any night. They beat the Suns. They beat the Phoenix Suns. Like, what are some of the marquee wins this season? The Suns, the 76ers.
Heat triple overtime.
Yeah, Heat triple overtime was huge. The Raptors have beaten very good teams this year. So this is why I'm looking forward to the playoffs. I literally cannot wait.
Zach Lowe mentioned in his pod that he's spoken to a couple of executives who said they do not want to play Toronto.
Yeah, and the Simmons pod today was very complimentary of the Raptors, and also,
about time,
came out and endorsed Barnes as the Rookie of the Year. Bill Simmons did. Ryan Russillo's done it. Zach Lowe has done it. David Thorpe has done it. Like the momentum is really going right now, and I think the odds I haven't checked recently, but I think he's still like a 4-1 dog. Scotty is for Rookie of the Year, and that's like 3 or 2 at least of the biggest media members, national media members endorsing Scotty. I think just Zach Lowe and Bill Simmons. Like, can you name a tandem that's more influential in NBA media? I kind of don't think you can. Both endorsing Scotty, so I don't know.
I got Scotty at plus 1,200, so I'm really praying for the Scotty Rookie of the Year right now.
Yeah, you counting on it? Is it like I guess
I need to pay rent.
Rent is due in 3 days, so they better announce it early.
Yeah. I mean, I'll happily be the guy that organizes the riot if Evan Mobley wins Rookie of the Year, or I'll say the peaceful protest. Sorry, and I say riot too much on this show. People are gonna be like, "Yo, he's for real now." I think that's it, guys. I did not notice we've been live for 1 hour and 13 minutes, and we are approaching that time. We're getting close to midnight Eastern time. So we appreciate everybody that's been with us tonight. Even if you're with us for 5 minutes, with us from the start to the end, you joined us halfway through, you disagreed with us, you agreed with us. We appreciate it. But that was it for myself, Adon Moss, and Kyle Brickman. Guys, do not forget, before you leave, all you got to do is just click a button. Click the like button. That's all you got to do. Everybody in the comments, we appreciate you. We hope you have a great night's rest, because the Raptors, the season isn't over, guys, and the Raptors have some tough games remaining for the rest of the schedule. Scotiabank Arena looks great, guys. We didn't even mention that, but I just wanted to say that really quickly. Scotiabank Arena is absolutely on fire. I mean, it's been rocking. I can't even say that, and I didn't even mean it as a joke anymore. Scotiabank Arena's been rocking, okay? Thank you guys for joining us. That was it for all of us at Raptors Republic. The Raptors won 115-112 overtime win versus the Boston Celtics. Guys, sleep well, because when we beat the Boston Celtics, we love it. We sleep like babies over here. So we appreciate you guys. Take care. Take care. Love you. Bye.